Last night, Iran pounded Israeli cities and towns with deadly missile attacks, causing large-scale deaths and destruction. Israeli authorities are calling this the deadliest attack yet by Iran in this limited war between the two countries. According to Israeli rescue officials, at least 10 people have been killed so far, dozens injured, and many more missing. Iran's two back-to-back rounds of hybrid attacks came amidst Israeli media reporting that war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu had made a desperate request to President Donald Trump to come to his rescue by involving the US in this war. But Trump reportedly rejected Netanyahu's desperate plea. Meanwhile, the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, he is facing more challenges on balancing his country's position in this precarious conflict amidst warning from Iran of reprisals. And that reprisal is for the US, the UK, and France if they were found to be helping Israel in any way. Now, returning to last night's Iran's retaliatory attacks, Tehran pounded Israeli cities by simultaneously launching missiles and drones. Iran targeted Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and other small towns in northern Israel. In fact, Haifa was where Iranians focused a lot given its economic significance for Israel. The force with which Iran pounded these Israeli cities made a mockery of its enemy country's much publicized air defense system. Iran used a hypersonic missile for the first time, and its impact was phenomenal. One video showed how one hypersonic missile had caused power failure in the entire city. You can watch the video on our Telegram channel. Details are on the screen and in the description of this video. Israeli news outlet Ynet, citing emergency services, said 6 people were killed after an Iranian missile hit a building in the central Israeli town of Bat Yam. According to the BBC, there were also reports of a woman in her 20s killed in Western Galilee, with many more injured. At around 4 a.m. UK time, there were reports of 35 Israelis missing, many of whom were believed to be buried under the rubble. Israel's emergency medical service, Magen David Adom, released details of casualties in other parts. It said that a 60-year-old woman was killed while 20 others suffered injuries in the Tel Aviv area. In the Shafela region near Jerusalem, 24 people were wounded near a building, including 2 who suffered serious injuries. There were reports of deaths and injuries in Rehovot, another city south of Tel Aviv. Iran retaliated with a second night of attacks after Israel had attacked Iranian oil and gas field, once again in breach of more international laws. As I explained in my last video, how Netanyahu had issued a video from an undisclosed location, seeking desperate help from the US. In this video, he was literally begging for help from Donald Trump and Europe, saying that he was fighting for all of them. Soon, Times of Israel reported that Netanyahu had indeed telephoned Donald Trump, seeking his country's help in this illegal war. According to the report, Trump refused. Trump, whose unscrupulous behavior in the current conflict has exposed him to his own support base in the US, wrote on Truth Social, and I quote, "The US had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the US armed forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this bloody conflict." End quote. This was after Iran once again threatened to attack Western bases in the Middle East if those countries provided support to Israel. Tehran said that Western military assets, the US in particular, but also that of the UK, could become Iran's legitimate targets, thereby expanding the war across the Middle East. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer had earlier confirmed that he had ordered the deployment of British fighter jets in the region.
Yes, the Prime Minister has told reporters and told our political editor, Beth Rigby, that in his words, as a contingency, RAF jets have been dispatched from UK to bases in the Middle East in response to the rising tensions. He said that that decision was made yesterday as news emerged of those attacks by Israel on Iran. Now, this all comes in the context of some pretty firm threats by Iran, not only to the UK, but to France and the United States, that if any of these nations, if the UK does get involved with, for example, intercepting missiles or drones that might be fired from Iran to Israel, then there would be consequences for the United Kingdom. A senior Iranian commander warning, if they help stop Tehran's strikes on Israel, their bases and ships will be targeted. Now, the Prime Minister has time and time again said that the UK is not involved in the military action between Israel and Iran, and he says that there should be more open diplomatic dialogue. But the Prime Minister has said that this is a contingency, and it's perhaps not surprising that the UK will be sending military assets to the Middle East. That could be places like Cyprus, Oman, the UAE, to try as a contingency, as a backup, to protect UK interests as these rising tensions escalate. So yes, we've now had it confirmed that British fighter jets and other assets now heading to the Middle East, but the Prime Minister being quite clear in that as a contingency rather than any reading into this that we are in some way engaging militarily in the conflict between Iran and Israel.
Just so you know, the UK have forces based in Iraq and Syria, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and the big UK sovereign base in Cyprus. All are within the striking distance for Iranian missiles. A visibly frightened British diplomat at the UN Security Council last week on Friday had made a desperate clarification, saying that her country was in no way involved in this conflict. This was after the Russian ambassador has said that UK's Cyprus base was being used to help Israel.
The UK did not participate in this action. And let me say clearly and unequivocally that Russia's claim that British sovereign bases on the island of Cyprus were in any way involved is nonsense. It is deeply irresponsible at moments like this for Russia to be spreading disinformation.
An expert on the BBC this morning warned that UK would face consequences if it emerged that the UK was complicit in attacks against Tehran.
We did approach the Iranian government for one of their spokespeople. They were not able to give us an interview. So instead, we spoke to Hamdreja Olamzadeh, the director of Diplo House, a think tank, about the UK's government decision to send RAF jets to the Middle East and whether or not that makes the UK a target for Iran.
They have not been involved yet. By just sending the fighter jets doesn't mean that they are involved. But if they are involved, there certainly would be a legitimate target for Iran. Iran has been very clear at this time that any country that supports Israelis and gets involved in either defending the Israelis or attacking Iran would be a legitimate target for that. And Iran doesn't have any joke with that. It's very serious about that, because it has turned into an existential war for Iran. Because Israelis have passed a red line that is very serious, and there is no return for that. And Iran is going to defend itself by any means and in any ways. And any country, even the Americans, the UK, or any country who supports the Israelis would be a legitimate target for Iran.
So Iran is threatening the UK?
If they are involved. So if they don't get involved, so there is no war. It's about security. It's a war. If you get involved in a war, so that's what you have chosen. If UK chooses to get into the war, so that would be the price that it needs to pay. But if there is no involvement, so no, there is no threat at all.
Meanwhile, Associated Press news agency reported that three drones had been launched towards the Ain al-Assad air base in western Iraq, which houses US troops. Although all three drones were shot down, but it simply highlighted the danger faced by Western forces in the Middle East from local groups. The reported assault on US forces comes amid fears in the US that Iran-backed groups could attack US forces across the Middle East as the Israel-Iran conflict escalates. The Western countries' refusal to condemn Israel's illegal attack on a sovereign country is truly mind-boggling. Just imagine if this was Iran, which had attacked Israel unprovoked and assassinated several Israeli generals and scientists. Would the same West have remained silent? That's why I say the West is completely exposed now and has zero credibility left. It has lost the right to lecture the world on morality and respect for international laws. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.